I invite you to the podium Mr. Joao Viegas from the Global Center for ICT in Parliaments. And the presentation is about using open format XML AKOMA NTOSO to promote transparency. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Carlo. Before my presentation, I would like to thank the Cortes Generales de España for this invitation, the ECPRD Secretariat as well, because not being working in a parliament in Europe in a normal situation, I should have not been here, because this is a forum for parliaments in Europe. But the organization that I do represent, and I also do believe my past activity before joining the United Nations in the ECPRD network, and as well as in the ICT area that I was also a member, or I mean an active participant, let's say, could in a certain extent justify my being here. So thanks very much. Of course, UN attending a parliament on the net for parliament in Europe, of course UN will not intend to either bring or add substantial value on what is being doing, or that the parliament in Europe is doing on the website, because I do believe this is one of the most relevant forums where in the world issues of parliament websites are discussed. So my presence here is in some extent to bring some information on what the Global Center for ICT and the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs is doing all over the world, with the main focus in the developing countries, in order to promote transparency, good governance, and parliamentary democracy using the website. And in fact, my past as former IT staff in the parliament, I've learned a lot about the way we did mistakes on developing website and developing application and developing new solutions. My main concern now is to assist the parliaments in developing countries in order to assist them, to help them not to repeat the same mistakes. And one of the biggest mistakes that all parliaments in the world, let's talk about Europe, is the format of documents that we do use. Normally, we develop solutions, we put information available, and then we sit down and think about integration, and think about exchanging of information, and think about transparency in terms of more restrictive action, in terms of exchange of documents, exchange of information. And that's why the UN bring to this forum an issue concerning what we are doing in order to promote transparency with Parliament. We have, in the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs, 2 projects that aims this purpose. The Global Center for ICT in Parliament that is based in Rome, in which I work, and the African Parliamentary Knowledge Network that is based in Nairobi, Kenya, that is mostly focused on parliaments in Africa and developing world. What do we do exactly within these 2 projects? The Global Center, we do organize events, and I think almost everyone here has already participated in events organized by the Global Center, World E-Parliament Conference, seminars, workshops, and so on. And what we try is to bring together what is being doing in the most developed parliaments in the world that are mostly in Europe, and what the new countries and the new parliaments in the developing world should focus on in order to improve their democracy and their transparency. One of our projects, the one in Nairobi, is very well concerned on developing an application called Bungeni for parliamentary legislative information and system based on open source software. This application is ready and it's available for all parliaments in developing countries without any cost in order to allow them to use a software to support the development of their activities on the legislative process network. Because, taking in as example, African Parliament, maybe you may not believe, but only one parliament in Africa has an application for management of legislative process electronically. That is South Africa. The other ones, you see, do a few things, use Word, Excel, and some Access, but there's no application. And there are many parliaments that are still without an official website in Africa. So when we talk about open source document for promoting transparency, for promoting good democracy and parliamentary exchange of information, okay, many parliaments in the world are, yes, far behind and needs to improve. And AKOMA NTOSO is what the United Nations understand like a solution that can assist those parliaments to develop their new system for management of legislative process using an open source format and schema that can allow them to exchange information not only among them, but also to very easily have access to some parliaments in the world that are already using XML or any other structured language to put available information on the parliamentary environment. We will talk about organizations that are using AKOMA NTOSO now, so that to give a good overview of what is going on in the using of this schema. And more important is that in Europe, it is also very considered, and we have seen the presentation yesterday from the European Parliament that is using the AKOMA NTOSO schema on management of, and publication updating of their amendments in the Parliament. Okay, let us see what the Global Center is doing exactly. The Global Center is trying to use ICT to increase transparency and good governance. We go all over the world. Last 3 years, we accessed like 50 parliaments in Africa, Latin America and Caribbean, Asia, Eastern Europe, and Middle East. What we exactly do in our assessment, we try to assist those parliaments in organizing a document that can reflect their needs in ICT in a structured way. In most of the case, our assessment ends with a strategic plan for the ICT in this parliament. We also organize and reinforce the role of parliaments in establishing inclusive information society through workshop, meetings, interchange of communication, information, and so on. And also, we do advise them on what they should do in order to increase citizen participation on the parliamentary activities. The second project of UNDESA, the APKN, that I've said here, the second project is basically focused on the development of Bungeni, that application for management of legislative process, and the AKOMA NTOSO, that is the XML schema for publishing and putting available information on the legislative process in parliaments. In what concerns the activities of the Global Center, as I said, I think all parliaments here and people related either to IT or to the website have received this here, I think earlier in March, a global survey of the Global Center requesting information that could help us to have a complete overview of what is going on in the world in terms of ICT in Parliament. And, of course, this information will be published and discussed in our World e-Parliament conference that will be held later this summer. So of course, you will be invited to attend this very important event. We assist Parliament and society in in inclusive information society. We try to organize activities that can help parliaments in cooperation among them, regional cooperation. We did with parliaments in Southern Africa, SADC region, and in Latin America and Caribbean, an experience very similar to what is the ECPRD now. We assisted them in creating a structure that could organize them in terms of exchange information, a common website for exchanging of good practices, and with structure to put requests and search for assistance from other parliaments. And at least we have succeeded in 2 regions now, that is in the Caribbean region, Latin America and Caribbean. Brazil is the parliament that is on the center of the secretariat for the Latin America and Caribbean. And South Africa is the one leading the one in the Southern African region. We assess parliaments either requested by the parliament itself or requested by any UN agency in the country. It has been frequent the last years in many developing countries when UNDP, that is the most representative UN agency in the country, would like to assist the parliament, they call us and then ask us to make an assessment on the ICT infrastructure so that to help them to identify the main challenges and address these challenges with specific recommendations for the improvement of the ICT infrastructure. We give technical cooperation, we have technical cooperation in program with training, apart from the global survey that I've said, and the World e-Parliament conference. We have a knowledge network that we have developed. And of course, we also have a database of experts that I would like to invite all colleagues here to go through our website and please register on our database of technical assistant expert database so that we may have your reference, because the Global Center, not being a parliament, we always need the collaboration of a technician expert that is working in the parliament to assist us in any mission that we carried out. And in this room, we have several colleagues and several parliaments that have worked with us in the past years. And I would like, once again, to thank your collaboration and your expertise. And it has been adding a lot of value on what we do. The events organized with the collaboration of the Global Center this year in what concerns the transparency in Parliament. We have 3 events. I think some of you have participated in this event. The 3 events, one was in US House of Representatives, another was in Brazil, and the next one, the 3rd one, will be next week in Brazil. I think the 2nd one was in Brussels. About the EPKN, as I said, the Bungeni, that is the legislative process database system that allows in any environment a complete integration with electronic exchange of all documents that are processed within the legislative process in the parliament, and the AKOMA NTOSO, that is the the schema to support these documents. I don't want to go deep on what is AKOMA NTOSO and what are the details, because anyone that is interested can access on the website. But it's easy to see that the schema is somewhat very familiar with what many of us has already gone through, either XML or any other structured language that we have used to develop whatever we did. Organization using AKOMA NTOSO, as I said, European Union. The Brazilian Chamber of Deputies is currently implementing a new schema, but based on AKOMA NTOSO. The National Council of Law in Kenya is using deeply AKOMA NTOSO, converting all their documents into the AKOMA NTOSO format. And I am sure that many of you have already heard about the resolution, or I mean the declaration on the last Conference of Speakers of Parliament in Europe concerning the use of open structured language, and AKOMA NTOSO was one of the good reference on this. I would like to finish this presentation with a small video, 3-4 minutes, about what is AKOMA NTOSO, and it's very technical, but it's, detailed enough to give a global overview of what is AKOMA NTOSO. I can't run it from here. I'd like to ask at the studio to put it through, please.
AKOMA NTOSO is an open XML standard legal document founded and supported by UN. The goal of this presentation is to show the main principles. AKOMA NTOSO means linked arts. The symbol is used by ethnic people of West Africa from the African Union. This standard defines a common open format for legal documents. And now, AKOMA NTOSO is used also in different countries outside of Africa. AKOMA NTOSO is able to manage different types of documents involved in a legislative process, bill, ordinance, executive order, amendments, and also answer record minutes. At the end, the act approved by the Assembly and published in official journal Gazette. Judgments, jurisprudence, and journal. AKOMA NTOSO schema includes 6 families of documents. Each family represents a set of legal documents that are homogeneous in structure and metadata. An example, the legislative document group is a family that includes act and bill. AKOMA NTOSO is based on 4 pillars: descriptors, document variants, separation of metadata presentation, and fact. First, descriptors. AKOMA NTOSO provides a tag for any type of mark legal document respecting the different legal tradition. An example is a section tag. In common law tradition, section is the normative category. In civil law, the section is a group of articles. Second, document amendments. The document is not fragmented in records or fields, but the tags annotate and qualify directly the legal text. This approach, called the self-contained, permits transparency, legal validity, independency by the software. Strong separation between content and metadata presentation. For content, we mean only the text approved by the legal body in our institution. For metadata, we mean additional content added by editorial board and presentation if it is of the layouts. This is an example. Inside of the Kenya Act, we find the content. In the top, we find publication metadata coming from the process of publication. It's a gazette, and at the end, the logo and the layout style. Fourth, patterns. This is a family of patterns, of tags that have in common the same structure, the same behavior, the same characteristics. To organize the tags in groups and to maintain the standards net, flexible, extendable, and accurate. We find 6 main patterns in AKOMA NTOSO: each container, block, line, marker, and block. Each container is Hierarchical container like chapter, tome, section, article, and clause. This is an example of chapter of a California statute, and we mark up the chapter, the number of the chapter, and the heading. All the internal part of the law is organized by hierarchical container. Container is a part of the text that includes different blocks and paragraphs with legal meaning. Preface, preamble, conclusion are examples of container. Blocks is a part of the text like paragraph, and inside of the paragraph we find inline like reference, doc title, doc date. This is an example of paragraph and normative reference. At the end we find pop-up, a sequential containers of structures that do not break the flow of the paragraph. An example is authorial notes. Authorial notes is a note put by the author of the document, like side notes or annotation. For more information, please see AKOMA NTOSO website.
And that's all. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Joao. Is there any question for Joao? And yes, please.
Hi. Picking up on that last video, you said that the Kenyan Parliament is converting every document into AKOMA NTOSO?
Yes, all legislation, national legislation, has been converted in a AKOMA NTOSO schema.
Okay,
yes.
so do you think that maybe African parliaments are kind of picking up more on these new information technologies than maybe European parliaments?
Not exactly. The reason of Kenyan Parliament is that the project is based in Nairobi, Kenya.
All right.
And then the project team is working closely with the Kenyan National Assembly and with the Kenyan Ministry of Justice. And we need to have someone to test our structure. So that's why we choose Kenya.
That's a very nice idea.
Yes.
Thank you for presenting it. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I would like just one question, then we have to go on. Please, Anita.
Yes. I think this was very interesting. And I have a question about XML, if I may. I have read the report, I think it was written after the meeting in Johannesburg in 2010. And in chapter 5 there, it's a very good description about the problems to make documents, to make the parliament change how they produce the documents. And I think the main reason is that I think most of us use Word. We start in Word. And my question is there a good XML editor here also? Or how does the production of the document start?
Yes, of course, the structure and the development is supported by an editor, and this editor is incorporated with an automatic tool that can go to a folder and read all documents of the same type and organize the document based on the structure defined for the schema. Of course, this is not an end work. We will not ask anyone to open all parliamentary documents that we have one by one and adjust it according to the XML or AKOMA NTOSO schema. But probably we have in the room, parliaments that have already started using any kind of XML schema. They could share with us what they did before and how did they shift from not using any schema at all and passing to use a certain schema that this could add value, because it's something that we decide, and then the system fetch all documents and tag them accordingly and save them. Of course, this is nothing that we can do in 1 minute. It will take some time. But since we decide from the time the system, the application, as using a AKOMA NTOSO schema, all documents produced from that moment ahead will be, of course, saved and put available on the new schema, but there will be a recovering process that will bring all documents on.
Thank you. Yes, please, Jean-Pierre.
A very short remark. Since this is a more technical issue, XML I mean, if you agree, Mr. President, I would suggest to follow that discussion on a LinkedIn thread. Maybe more ICT matter than parliaments on the net, but we can open a channel there and have exchanges on this issue, because some parliaments here have experience on XML editing, so we can change and exchange experiments. That's my contribution.
Yes, it's a very important, and I must say that we have to use this new discussion groups in order to continue this work in between seminars. And I urge you, everybody, to enroll, if you haven't done already, subscribe the user group, this LinkedIn group. In the two groups I will talk about in my presentation, if we reach it, because we have to deal with others now. But Joao, thank you very much.
No, I just like
yes,
to add an information concerning group of discussion. The AKOMA NTOSO, of course, has already a discussion group in the LinkedIn. If just you search and then resist on that group, we can even exchange information between the two working groups, the ECPRD1 and the AKOMA NTOSO, but the technicians that are developing are totally open and available to exchange any kind of technical information with parliaments. In fact, with the parliament in Europe, I'm sure will add value to this discussion because of the experience and the knowledge that is present in many parliaments in Europe. Okay?
Thank you, Joao. This is a very important piece of information. Now, thank you again.
Thank you very much.